بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. This is our fourth class of من كنوز الصرف. Inshallah, we'll be beginning from page types of nouns, page 18. In this section, we're going to learn the different types of nouns. There are primarily three types of nouns in the Arabic language: a masdar, a mushtaq, and a jamid. A masdar, a mushtaq, and a jamid. Masdar is the verbal noun. So if you take any word like nasara, the verb nasara means to help, he helped, literally. But an-nasru with the alif lam, an-nasru is the verbal noun or masdar, and it means to help, to help. Without any tense, the occurrence of an action, and is free of tense. So this talks about help. It's as if you're speaking about the verbal noun. You can take that with any word. For example, you would say haraba. Haraba means to run. He ran. But al-harb would be to run. To run. So that is a masdar. Masdar is the verbal noun. So if you want to talk about someone's hitting, you would say ad-darbu shadidun. The hit was severe. So daraba is the verb, but ad-darbu is the masdar or verbal noun if you were talking about the hit itself. So again, it is a word that indicates the occurrence of an action and is free of tense. There's no past, there's no present, and there's no future inside of that word. So an-nasr. Now, number two, or the second one, is called a mushtaq. Mushtaq. Mushtaq is a word derived from a verb. A word derived from a verb. So here you can see we have the verb nasara. Now from nasara we derive another word which is nasir. And nasir means someone who is a helper. There's another word derived, mansur, the one who is helped. So if we say fataha, fataha means to conquer or to open. So if you say al-fatih, al-fatih or fatih is the opener or the conqueror. So these words are called mushtaq because they are derived from the verb. They are derived from the verb. Another example of a mushtaq would be masjid. Masjid, because sajada means to do sujud, sajda. Now masjid is the place where sajda is done. Masjid. Now the third form of nouns is jamid. Jamid is simple. It's neither a masdar nor a mushtaq. Example, rajulun. Rajulun didn't come from any word. It's a jamid, and it is not a masdar either. So that's why it's called jamid. It didn't come from anything, and it doesn't go into anything else. Okay? So the only way you will recognize them, masters are very easy to recognize because when you look in the dictionary, normally they'll give you the mastar. Mushtaq also you'll find in the dictionaries. They'll come after any verb. And jamid, also they'll come in the dictionary too. They're not hard to find. But you just need to understand. The main thing you really need to know is the first one, which is mastar. This is the most important one because this is the verbal noun. So if you want to take any verb and speak about that verb, you have to use the masdar. So if you want to say, okay, John ran to the store. So because running is a verb, you have to actually say ran and use past tense. But if you want to talk about his running, then you have to say harbu John, like the running of John was such and such, was something. So that's the difference when you speak about or want to describe the actual verb itself. I'll give you another example. So you would say ضرب زيد amran. So Zayd hit Amr. But if you want to talk about Zayd's hitting, you would say ضرب زيد كان شديد. The hit of Zayd was intense. ضرب Zayd. So now you're not using daraba, you're using darbu, and you're using that to you're speaking about it, so you use the masdar form. use the masdar form. Okay? Next, number 5. The masdar and the mushtaq also fall under the categories of thalathi, rubai, mujarrad, and mazid fi. So, like yesterday in class, or today in class, depending on when you're watching this, yesterday in class we spoke about some words such as istaghfara. Hold on one second. Let's see if this works. Istaghfara. Actually, there's a ta there. Istaghfara. We spoke about this word in class. Istaghfara. So this is the verb. Now the masdar of this verb is just going to be by adding alif lam to it. Al-istighfar, and putting an alif right here. Al-istighfar. The point is that the masdar will be just like the actual verb itself when it comes to ثلاثي مجرد, ثلاثي مزيد في, رباعي مجرد, رباعي مزيد في. It'll be the exact same. Okay? So the same way we have this istighfar, you have istaghfara yastaghfiru istighfaran. Istaghfara yastaghfiru. Istaghfara is the verb. Al-istighfar is the masdar. This here equals masdar. Masdar, al-istighfar. So the same way that the verb is going to be thalathi mazid fi, the masdar will be exactly the same way. Okay? The categories mentioned under the verb, like sahih, also apply to ism. Okay? We'll get to this later. We did not discuss this part yet. Next. The noun jamid, with regards to its letters, can either have 3 root letters, 4 root letters, or 5 root letters. It is therefore 6 types. So nouns, they explain here, nouns or jamids are different. They can have 3, 4, or 5 root letters. Here's some examples. رجل ثلاثي مجرد. حمار ثلاثي مزيد فيه. أقرب is رباعي مجرد. قرطاس, piece of paper, is رباعي مزيد فيه. سفرجل, quince, is a khumasi mujarrad. Khumasi means 5. Ankabut is a khumasi mazid fi, a spider. The scholars of morphology generally deal with fail because most of the changes, tasrifat, occur in fail, while few changes occur in ism, and none occur in harf. So here, he's summarizing the end of this chapter, which is that we will primarily be dealing with af'al. We will primarily be dealing with fails, not with asma or isms. We'll primarily be dealing with af'al, not isms, because the majority of tasrifat, the majority of changes occur in fails, not in isms. The majority of changes occur in af'al, not in isms. Type. The scales of verbs. The Arabic verb is constructed from a root which usually consists of 3 letters called consonants or radicals. These consonants form a kind of a skeleton which constitute the verb stem to which prefixes and suffixes may be added. What the author is saying here is very simple. Listen closely. It's very simple. The author is telling us that Arabic words are based off root words. The verbs are always based off root words. When you find out and know the root words, then from that you add something in the front or at the end to change the verb. Once you know the root, then the root stays the same, but you can adjust the meaning and change things through what? Through adding stuff at the end and the beginning, and you'll learn more about that. But that basic skeleton, that basic root word is based off either a thalathi or a rubai, okay? And that's the root of it. Arabic verbs are mostly triliteral. The most of the verbs will be thulathi, but there are some rubai. That is, they are constructed of 3 root letters. The simplest form of the verb is the third person masculine singular of the perfect tense. And we'll discuss all of these terms in detail momentarily. In most dictionaries, all the words derived from the 3 thulathi roots are entered under the third person masculine singular form of the verb. And don't worry, we're going to get into that in a minute. Okay, next thing. This is important. In Arabic, so this part we just did about the wahid, mudhakkar, ghaib, this thing here, or the third person masculine singular. You don't need to know that for tomorrow's class. We'll do that in more detail as we get further in our sarf. Now, this part, however, is important. In Arabic, there are 2 main tenses, the perfect or past tense. So you have what's called al-madi. You have to know this term very well. Madi, denoting action completed at the time to which reference is made. So when we say nasara, it's a madi verb. It means it happened in the past tense. Okay, past tense. Fataha, again, past tense. Then we have the mudari or imperfect form. Now the difference with mudari, Arabic is different from English because the mudari implies both the future and the present at the same time. It indicates to the future and the present at the same time. So mudari means both the future, and mudari also means the present tense. Both of those are covered under mudari. This is very important to remember. The only way you will be able to differentiate is by looking at the context. So if a word is written by itself without context in mudari form, then that means it can mean both the present and the future. Okay? Time. Let's go forward to the next paragraph. That's the next important thing here. To indicate patterns of three forms of verbs, the grammarians use the 3 letters of the verb. We spoke about this today in class. Fa'ala, where the fa represents the first root letter, the ayn represents the second, and the lam represents the third root letter. We discussed this today in class. This is the scale or mizan. This is the scale or mizan standard by which the root letters of a verb are determined. So let's look at the example here. We have the word kataba is on the scale of fa'ala. And then we have the mudari. This is the mudari, the future or the present. It is on the scale of yaktubu, meaning yaf'ulu. This is the scale. And uktub is on the scale of uf'ul. Uktub means write. It's the command. So, the letter that corresponds with fa is called fa kalima. The one that corresponds with the ayn is called ayn kalima. And the one that corresponds with lam is called lam kalima. Take a look here. Fa kalima is the kaf. Ayn kalima is the ta. Lam kalima is the ba. Okay, so fa'ala kataba. Fa'ala kataba. Okay, we did this today. Let's go forward. Exercise 2. Exercise 2. Determine the scale of the following verbs and what each letter represents. The first one has been done for you. Look at this. Nasara. See, noon, sad, lam. Now, here it will get a little more difficult. Please complete this assignment for homework tonight and bring this assignment done for class. This assignment is on page 22. Isma, taftah, tadrib. Try your best to identify the ayn, the fa kalima, the ayn kalima, and the lam kalima in this exercise, inshallah. Okay, that will be the end of our dars for today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.